That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Brothers, the sophomore film directed by Max Barbakow, which released on Amazon Prime for your streaming pleasure on October 17th, 2024.
What is Max's first film?
Palm Springs, which we reviewed, which was a huge acquisition out of Sundance. And then it went to, was it Hulu?
What is Brothers about? Two criminal twin brothers, one trying to reform, embark on a dangerous heist road trip. Facing legal troubles, gunfights, and family drama, they must reconcile their differences before their mission leads to self-destruction. That makes it sound more interesting than it is.
I agree.
What's your pull quote?
Well, it's not comedically comatose. It's surprising how juvenile and derivative Brothers feels, from the road trip crime shenanigans to a title which also seems primed, should I say Amazon primed, for immediate atrophy in your memory bank.
Yeah. Mine. Brothers' impressive cast is not enough to save its thin, silly plot from feeling like just another unsatisfying, low-grade adult comedy on streaming.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because there are really cool people in this movie. Glenn Close.
I mean, I was like, we have to watch Glenn Close play another white trash mom this year, I guess, right?
Josh Brolin. Peter Dinklage. Brendan Fraser. Marisa Tomei. I mean, there are really cool people in this movie.
Emmet Walsh in one of his, because he died earlier this year, and this is his penultimate film release.
Taylour Paige.
Poor Taylour Paige. Nothing to do in this.
Gosh, I mean, I agree. There's like a stretch of like 30 minutes where I found myself giggling a lot. But yeah, overall, it's just so random and dumb.
And the giggles that you were experiencing, I think, are the novelty of watching some of these people do these things. And the principals really kind of... I feel like they're doing a lot to get laughs.
Josh Brolin and Peter Dinklage play twins, fraternal twins.
So this is like a rehash of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito and Ivan Reitman's twins.
And we see that 30 years prior, they kind of have a history of criminal activity. Like clearly their mom is not abiding by the legal system. So we flash back, like the opening is 30 years prior, and we see that the two main characters are like kids. Maybe like Brendan Fraser is chasing Peter Dinklage. They all get hemmed up. Glenn Close makes a break for it, so she abandons her kids. She goes and sells the emeralds, gets $4 million. But then there's a final showdown because the two brothers are able to catch up to her, and then Brendan Fraser is following all of them. And there's a shootout at an abandoned mall. And I guess since Glenn Close's character has not been a great mom and doesn't intend to start now, but she does say that it would be a shame if all of my hard work goes to waste. So she gives her sons the money and says, I'll distract the police. So she gets arrested. Then we flash forward a year, so next Thanksgiving, and we see that she's in prison. But now the two brothers are back in each other's lives. Josh Brolin's wife has had the baby.
Named Blueberry.
And we'll get to why the kid's named Blueberry. But all's well that ends well. The final gag is that we see that they didn't sell all the emeralds. So Josh Brolin has one, Peter Dinklage has some, and for some reason gave some to his mother, who's an old lady in prison, but that's the end. Yeah, I think the first like 20 minutes were pretty stale.
I think stale is a really good word for it. Like almost every kind of maneuver or characteristic about this has been done somewhere else.
And then, we're not seeing... It's not really because the opening is we see that the younger versions of Josh and Peter. So it's like, that's not particularly funny. And then witnessing Josh Brolin with his wife, and then he's nervous because he's meeting her parents.
It's so unclear though. Like, is this the first time you're meeting her parents? She is about to pop.
That's why I'm saying the plot is thin. There's no development. I think the entire Taylour Paige situation with her parents is so pointless.
Well, because that's supposed to be adding extra pressure.
Pressure on him.
At the same time as this Emerald's corpse heist is going on. Taylour Paige is blowing up his phone being like, you have to be home for dinner by 6 or else with my parents. And then he shows up a little bit late and she's, what does she say? Like, I started dinner, I didn't wait, and I will not wait again. What? Why? Like, what's happening?
Also, the parents, so we're told they just bought a new house, Taylour Paige and Josh Brolin. Don't know how because he works like
at Sweet Ass,
like as a cashier at a fast food restaurant, and they have a nice house. And then we see that Taylour Paige's dad is a doctor. The mom and dad seem like a very respectable couple, and they show up with this like 20-year-old white boy who I couldn't tell if he's like their. Like, is it a cuckold situation? I don't understand what's happening.
I don't know what the child was, but all we know about that character is he smokes weed.
He gets in trouble by his elderly parents for smoking weed with Peter Dinklage. It was giving me that Ari Aster short film, The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. It was just very odd, but not in an interesting way. I was so confused.
Not in a fun, interesting, or compelling way.
Yeah. Okay. You said something funny. When we first see young Glenn Close, you said she looked like Leather Gumby because she's very, very thin and fit. And she's wearing a leather catsuit.
And that's supposed to be like 1991. It's like
running from the police in that heat with that catsuit on. Okay, so Josh Brolin's character getting fired from Sweet Ass. We find out later that Peter Dinklage is the reason he got fired because he called in and said, I'm from the labor and something union.
Employee relations.
Something
board.
like that. And did you know that your employee has a criminal record? And then Josh Brolin's upset about it, but it's like, but you did lie to your employer about your criminal history. So, I mean,
yes.
Either way.
And also, how much did you really love that job? And
well, we hear him saying that he has an opportunity to become a store manager, which could lead to like something else, and he could make $125,000 a year. Again, how did you buy this house? What does Taylour Paige do? Why is she even with you? The actors are 22 years apart in age. I think they look even like there's a wider gap in age. I just thought it felt like, oh, you're just like, it's just everything's so random and that's what's supposed to be funny that these two would be together.
Well, it's just weird. It's odd because especially with Josh Brolin interacting with the man playing Taylour Paige's father, it's like, she just played Eddie Murphy's daughter.
I don't know. It's so odd. Okay, Blueberry. So we hear Josh and Taylour refer to, her belly, like they know it's going to be a girl. And they're calling her like, oh, our little Blueberry. So at the end of the movie, when Josh and Peter are able to get away, so the judge, Brendan Fraser, got Peter Dinklage to touch like a bazooka, or what do you call those? Like an AK-47, some kind of machine gun.
Semi-automatic?
So that would violate his parole. So Brendan Fraser is using that as like a carrot in front of Peter Dinklage to do what he wants him to do. Because he's like, if I give my dad this firearm, you'll get thrown back in prison. So at the end of the film, we know that the judge has the firearm. So Josh Brolin takes his half of the $4 million and pays off the judge to get the gun back. So his brother won't go to prison. But for the entirety of the movie, did you get the sense that these two were close enough that he would just give away $2 million?
No.
So he does. And then when Josh gets home and tells Peter what he did, Peter's mad, like, wait, what? You gave away your half? Well, I put my half of the money in a trust for your daughter under the name Blueberry Avery. And then Josh goes, her name's not going to be Blueberry. We were just calling her that for fun. So then we flash forward a year. We see that now the girl is named Blueberry because that's the only way she can get the money. That just feels so stupid.
Well, she can always change her name later.
I know it's not a serious movie, but it's like, really? You immediately went and put $2 million in an account for an unborn person whose name you don't really know?
Well, there's a lot that doesn't really make sense about... And again, there's supposed to be a suspension.
I know it's a silly comedy, but it's too dumb.
But the social economics of it are, on their own, are distracting.
I think Glenn Close is fun, but I think the character that probably, like the cameo that works the best, because they all kind of have small parts besides Dinklage and Brolin, is Marisa Tomei.
Okay. Marisa Tomei. So previously, she already had kind of a romantic collaboration with Peter Dinklage in a film called She Came to Me, directed by Rebecca Miller, where Marisa Tomei is a tugboat operator.
Oh.
I thought that movie was super cute and weird, and it got terrible reviews out of Berlin, but I actually kind of recommend checking that out, especially in comparison to something like this. But they have chemistry.
Peter Dinklage has been corresponding with Marisa while he was in prison.
Bethesda.
And but he's really using her because he's trying to get her badge. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know why.
Where
does she work?
That's where they get the forklift.
Oh, that's right. So he's been corresponding with Marisa Tomei's character because he needs access to a bulldozer so they can dig up the corpse to get the emeralds. But she thinks that she's developed this romance with this man in prison. So the first stop Josh and Peter make on this road trip is to go see her. And she's really cute. She's very
she's very odd.
Eclectic. And at first she seems into Peter, and it seems like she wants to be sexual, and she says, can we have some alone time since you brought your brother? Let your brother go sit in the living room. So first, Peter and Marisa go to her bedroom, and she goes, let's put on some mood music. And I thought we were getting a sex scene. But then she puts on like this heavy metal music, and they start raging in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. It's in the trailer, but the trailer doesn't have music for licensing reasons, I'm assuming. It plays much better in the movie because it's so ridiculous. And Peter Dinklage, I do think he's a very good actor, and I think he has very good physicality.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially in that scene. But then while they're in there raging, Marisa makes a comment to Josh like, don't drink something in the refrigerator. That belongs to Samuel. And they're like, who the hell is Samuel when you're about to have this man in your bedroom? Samuel is an orangutan. And not just any orangutan. Samuel is a gay orangutan and also a pervert. He sexually assaults Josh Brolin.
Samuel is a molester, yes.
He forces Josh Brolin to give him a hand job.
But this is like the pervy, dirty version of, there's a very famous orangutan in a pair of Clint Eastwood movies called Every Which Way But Loose and Any Which Way You Can.
It doesn't feel original, but I would say her scene in that moment was more along the lines of what I think this needed to be to make it make sense as a stupid adult comedy.
Yes, and you can also tell that she's adding things to the character.
Marisa,
in her performance.
Yeah. So I would say she gets the gold star, but Clint Close is also a lot of fun.
She is. She's also, there's Lee Daniels' The Deliverance from earlier this year, but she also played a mother like this in a film called, I think the eventual release title was Father Figures with Owen Wilson.
Oh.
Don't you remember? It's two brothers running around trying to figure out who their dad is, and it's like a Mamma Mia situation where Glenn Close had slept with all these men.
Yes, I do remember that. Well, when we first see Glenn Close, didn't she look like Moira Rose to you?
With the hair.
Or like Catherine O'Hara, really. She has some cute style. Glenn Close looks great.
I think so too.
Yeah. They give her these like yellow buck teeth, which I found funny. But Josh Brolin, his characterization was confusing to me because when we meet them as kids, he seems a little more competent. He just doesn't want to do bad things. But when we meet him as an adult, he seems like very simple Jack to me.
Yeah.
But then as the movie goes on, you get the sense that he's smarter than what you might think. He just doesn't want to do bad stuff, even though he's very easily persuaded to do them. And then the way Josh Brolin's doing this character, I thought it reminded me of like if he were doing like male Jennifer Coolidge.
That's funny you bring up Simple Jack because that's from Tropic Thunder.
Yeah. And
one of the screenwriters of this, Etan Cohen, was one of the screenwriters on that.
Oh. Okay. I think another scene that, again, like I did chuckle, but it's so stupid, is they go to dig up the corpse of the boyfriend with the emeralds in his belly. And they have this bulldozer, and they're on a golf course, and they start digging, and all of a sudden in the distance you see, like, they call them rich white guys on golf carts, immediately start screaming.
From a distance.
From a distance.
Bette Midler.
We're gonna golf, you can't be on the... And it's like, I just thought from the moment it started, it felt so ridiculous.
Like, don't you want to survey what they're doing?
Maybe
first?
there's an issue on the course and they need to fix it. They immediately are like, you can't be on here. And then they start chasing them.
Maintenance is on Tuesdays. Okay.
And then we get this chase sequence with a bulldozer and some golf carts. It does sort of end in a funny way because there's this random man using a wood chipper. And one of the golf carts hits him, and the way the bodies skid across the ground, that was genuinely funny to me.
But see, all of those moments, it's like they're putting the wrong emphasis on comedy. It's like those things should be like cherry on top, but we have
sure.
There's no heart or humanity to this film.
Well, speaking of that, we find out that Josh Brolin is the most affected by his mother being gone for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Peter just dove right back in because his mom was talking his language of being a little criminal. But Josh seems hurt by it, and then he confronts his mother and says, I heard what you said or he goes, do you remember what you said when you left us? And then we get a flashback and we hear her saying, because he says, well, can we go with you? And she says, couldn't use you. So he thought for all these years that she said couldn't use you. But then Glenn Close is like, no, dummy. I said I couldn't lose you. Like I was afraid that if you came with me, you'd be taken away.
But then her later actions suggest that he probably did hear her right.
Right, but I just think that, like, to introduce this idea of, like, this character who's upset about the mother who abandoned them, this movie does not honor that at all.
Well, also the fact that they're fraternal twins, which they bring up in the dialogue, but it's like, but
what's the point?
I don't understand the point of that, yeah.
When Glenn makes a break for it with the money, the image of this, like older woman running across the parking lot, I thought that was very funny.
Oh, and she's booking it.
Yes. I also thought that this would technically, people are always saying like holiday movies and like Thanksgiving. I would say this is a Thanksgiving movie. Because it's set during 2 Thanksgiving weekends.
Well, yeah, and it can put you to sleep after you're done eating.
Lastly, when we find out that we do get a hint, like foreshadowing, because we hear someone say that the emeralds are worth $4 million plus inflation, meaning they were worth $4 million back when they were stolen 30 years ago. So when we find out that the money Glenn Close got was $4 million, it's like, okay, well, where's the extra? But then we realize, oh, there's no extra because she kept some emeralds, or Peter did. But then in the end, to see that they have extra emeralds, I just thought like, that wasn't fun to me. I would have preferred that there was either like an extra bag of money they didn't know about, and then why give Glenn Close emeralds? Like she's surely going to die in prison.
Well, I don't know. I strongly disliked the scene where she is motivated to do the right thing. Because she's observing while there's the shootout in the mall going where Brendan Fraser has the brothers at gunpoint and they're doing that whole like, we're going to get into a violent argument to distract the person holding us at gunpoint. And then Brendan Fraser's performance, I think, is bad.
We didn't even talk about him. Bad. Yeah, I like Brendan Fraser, but I think he was trying, but
He was trying, but trying too hard. It's very shrill and shrieky and shouty and dumb. And
also, the cinematography, like a lot of close-ups that are not very flattering on anyone. It's not the cheapest thing you've seen, but it definitely looks like it was made for streaming very quickly.
And this title, there's so many movies called Brothers, including actually one of Susanna Bier's better films, which was remade by Jim Sheridan for the U.S. who don't like to read. But who's going to remember this? It's just, I don't know. I think it's disappointing.
What would you give Brothers?
A 2.
I would give it 2.5 out of 5, only because I did laugh. I think this would be like the perfect movie on an airplane as you're flying to go see family for Thanksgiving. But other than that, it's, it definitely feels like it's not elevated beyond like, oh, you can sit on your couch and stream it.
And it doesn't need to be. We didn't even bring up one of the screenwriters is Macon Blair. Like, Jesus, what?
Who's that?
A notable writer-director as well. He's written several films for Jeremy Saulnier.
Oh.
That film he directed won Sundance several years ago. It's like, I don't know. Does nobody want to try hard anymore?
Anything else?
No.
Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.